Brilliant. After evening, everyone. Thank you, Alex, for the intro. My name's John. I'm John Eloy. I'm the founder and director of Get Grants, and I'm just doing the session today. I'm leading us through this hour-long grant funding conversation. Do, as Alex is saying, do say hello in the chat box and let us know where you are from. Alex and I were just talking about the how great it is that we can kind of connect nowadays via Zoom. I saw we've got a couple of people down in Cornwall. We got someone down over in Hove. We got, I think I saw Hull. We need someone up in the north west, so we can kind of have the country covered. But one of the things we always were going to talk about uh, as part of grant fundraising is learning from others. And actually, it doesn't really matter. I think traditionally we would always look at those neighbouring clubs and go, well, how have they got that? Who have they applied for? Where have they got money from? But actually, that works on a national basis. And we can be looking at examples from across the country. Thank you, Aaron, here from Cheshire, but John up in Cumbria is beating you. So thank you for that, guys. Just a quick intro. So, Alex has mentioned most of these webinar format muted, closed captions, and we're recording it, so you'll be able to watch it back. If there any bits that you miss, it's an hour-long session. I'm going to throw as much as I can at you in this time. So if there's bits that you go, God, this has gone a bit quick and it's skipping by me, then you're going to get the recording. And so yeah, watch back. Um, this is what we're going to cover. We're going to keep on doing a little bit of intros. I want to ask a couple of sessions to a couple of questions to everyone. We're going to look at the important bit of finding the place to apply. Where do we apply to? There are, God, Charity Commission will tell you there's about 15,000 grant givers, registered grant givers. Maybe Funds Online, Grants Online might tell us that there's about 8,000 grant programs. How do we find them in the first place? But probably much more important, how do we find the right funder? Especially for those of us at sports clubs, how do we want to find the funders who are actually going to fund us? There might be 15,000 funders out there, but it's going to be a tiny percentage of those who are going to fund us. But how do we find those 10, those 12, those 15 who might give us some money? So that's what we're gonna talk about. And we're going to talk about forms. Grant fundraising is filling in forms. But we're going to find our opportunities to go in slightly different directions and talk about a range of topics. Just in case you haven't before, as I say, my name's John. I run Get Grants. If you haven't come across us before, please do jump on our website at some point and have a look at all the stuff that we do. Best thing about Get Grants is we are a consultancy and a training provider, but we do a huge amount of stuff for free. So have a look at all the free events we do, meet the funders, meet the experts, intro sessions. Please do engage with all the nice things we do to support people that doesn't cost you a penny. Um, in the chat box, I'd love to know just some numbers at first. It says, what is your bid writing experience? You as an individual, not the club. What is your experience? Give us a one in the chat box. Thank you, Claire, for starting us off. Give us a one if you've hardly ever done any. Give us a 8, 9, 10 if you have done loads. And we saw, thank you, Sarah. Saw a couple early on. We had a couple of eights, maybe a nine as well. Thank you, Trevor. Nick as well with a nine. Real mix. And you can see, there's some other questions there. I'm going to ask these questions whilst I'm just chatting away. Why are you attending? What are you wanting to learn? What are your weaknesses? It says there, what are your frustrations? Just tell me something about bid writing. What do you hate about it? What is putting you off? What is the little bit that you would really love to learn today? Yeah, let me know that in the chat box. And really interesting that we've got an absolute range of people. We're going to cover some really basic stuff for those of you who are really new to this. Those of you, your club, you yourself, you've never applied before. We're going to give you some direct message. Apply here, fill in this form, crack on and do it now. For those of you who have lots of experience, um, most of us, I think I'm in this as well, most of us were self-learned. Most of us who are bid writing grant fundraising are making it up as we go along, and maybe we have a good amount of success along the way. But across today, um, we're gonna give you a load of top tips. There'll be a lot of confirmation for those experienced people that you are doing the right thing, but there will also be lots of top tips, lots of nuances, lots of improvements that hopefully that you can make. Thank you, Ellie. Yes, the forms are long. They are. We're going to talk about that. Mark is in the position that I'm sure that all of you are in. No one wanted to look after funding. No one chooses to do this. I didn't choose to do this. This is something that I fell into. Um, but it's incredible. The wins are incredible. You can run all your beer festivals and your fireworks displays and your community fundraising stuff that takes hours and hours and hundreds and dozens of people to raise you a few £1,000s. But we can fill in a form that might take us a handful of hours and we can get 10, 15 grand. Grant fundraising is incredible if we can find that time, find a bit of passion for it. Um, Success rate, thank you, Glenn. Finding grants. Oh yeah, finding grants. Thank you, Glenn. Finding grants is very hit and miss, mostly word of mouth, and that's really interesting, Glenn. We do find about a lot of places to apply for from people telling us. But actually, we need to quantify that information that people are coming to us. How many times have you had someone come into the clubhouse going, you know what we need to do? We need to get a grant from these people. Oh, I've just heard that the lottery are giving loads of money to sports clubs at the moment, so we need to apply there. And actually, word of mouth is really, really useful, but only if it's from someone who knows. So, what are we doing to quantify the information that comes in? Cassie, thank you, Kathy has no knowledge on anything at all. So we're gonna show you, Kathy, that this is worth it. This is worth your time and worth your effort. Where to look initially. Thank you, John. You're similar. I'm just scrolling through. Um, make a couple of notes of some of those. Thank you, Bill. How best to build a stock of information and scripts to quickly complete application forms. Is it worth doing? It is. It is. It is really worth reusing text. We're going to talk about that a number of times today. If you've got good arguments, good statements, it's like a budget. If you've got a good budget for a project or for a development, you're not rewriting that budget every single time. So if you've got a good statement that explains how incredible your rugby club is, or a good statement that explains why a certain initiative is needed, of course you've got to use that again and again, rather than trying to write it fresh every single time. And obviously the time that involves in that. Thank you, Sarah. Someone was going to do it. Sarah says they've been using AI to help, but wondering more about finding more on how to do so. So I haven't got a slide on AI, but we are going to talk about AI. Good evening, Wayne. Thank you for joining us. We're literally just getting started. We had a few points already, but you're not missed too much. Thank you, everyone. So I just wanted, this is a little point that I half mentioned um, during that introduction. This is a bit of research by the Institute of Fundraising called Fund Ratios. It's return on investment. This research is really old and outdated, but the trends are very, very much accurate. Um, this research is a return on investment. You can all see for yourself at the bottom, we've got a range of fundraising methods. The slides, the graph, the orange, ignore the blue behind, but the orange graph tells us for every pound of time, money, or energy that you put into each of the fundraising methods, this is a return on that investment. As I say, this research is old, but there's been some benchmarking in the last 18 months from a consultancy called Larkowl that tells us that these trends are very, very much accurate. This is still the picture that we see here. And for rugby clubs, you've got to pick on special events. It's one of my flippant comments about your beer festivals and your fireworks and your gala dinners and so on. Of course, they're great and they bring in important money. They bring in important unrestricted money, and they bring the club together. But we put a lot of time and energy into those events, and for every pound of time and energy we put into it and resources, we get £2.38 in return. At the same time, we on the far left of this slide, we've got the word trusts. Really, for this audience, we should change that word trust for bid writing or grant fundraising. For every pound of time, money, or energy that we put into bid writing, we are getting this research showed us we're getting £9.56 in return. A crazy amount. So much more, what we 4 times more than the event fundraising. However, our bid writing are done by who was it early in the chat? I think it was Mark. Mark early in the chat who was new in role and no one else wants to do bid writing, so he's doing it. And he's the guy spending here at 7:15 on a Monday evening trying to do a little bit of cramming. Whereas your events committee have got a committee. They've got lots of people. They've got a commitment to it. And of course, I'm not questioning event fundraising. All I'm doing is trying to encourage us as bid writers to take this just as seriously. One of the things we didn't see in the chat, maybe it's Ellie's point on the length of forms. One of the things we often see, what we don't like about bid writing is that it's time consuming. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of focus. It takes a lot of our evenings. It takes a lot of time. And you want to come on a bid writing course and to be told, well, here's all the corners we can cut. This is how to make it quicker. The main message I would give though is let's allocate that time. Let's commit that time. Filling in forms is a time consuming process, but for the time that we commit to it, we get a huge return on investment for it. And so actually, rather than trying to let's rush this and cut the corners and try and do it quickly, let's really take this professionally. Let's really take this on and commit time. And that's what's going to bring us the surprising amount of income that we can get from bid writing. So you're all on a bid writing course, so you're moving in the right direction anyway. But that's your big encouragement. So I'm going to make I'm going to make some really basic points, but they're going to be backed up with some real depth. So those of you with more experience, the depth is there to think about even more so. But what do we mean by bid writing? Just so we know what we're talking, just so we all know what we're talking about. Bid writing, it's a written request in the form of an application form. We're going to have to write something. We're gonna have to put something down. We're gonna have to send it off together, send it off for someone else to read. There was a movement in the sector at some point that you could do applications by videos. Occasionally, you could have like a panel interview. It doesn't really happen. The 99% of the time, higher than that, we are filling in a form and we are sending it off to someone, hopefully electronically. Two things that we see with that is unfortunately, we've got to be comfortable stringing sentences together. Those of us with additional challenges, that means that stringing sentences together that don't make a lot of sense. This isn't an activity for you at the moment. AI can play a massive role in supporting those of us who struggle with that. But we're going to be able to put something together and that makes sense. The other part of that, we have a lot of people who say, well, the thing I don't like about bid writing is it feels like it's a test. It feels like I'm back at school and I'm doing an exam, I'm doing a bit of coursework, and someone's going to judge me. And someone's going to judge that application and tell us if it's good enough or not. Bid writing is very much like a test. It's very much like a job application. This is the process we are going for. Success rates in the sector are, at the moment, about 20%, I would say. For every 5 applications you write, 4 of them, someone's going to say, I don't like this. I don't want to fund your project or your item or your application. Rejections are huge in the sector. And there's many clubs that we meet who go, oh, we tried this. We tried a couple of applications, but we weren't successful. Oh, I did the one, but oh no, took me ages and I didn't get the money. The best bid writers are the ones with the toughest chins. Get grants, we write about 20 applications a week. The amount of rejections we get is crazy. But dotted in among those is 20 to 30% of successes. And that brings our clients in millions of pounds. Second point I want to make is there is always a criteria or guidance to meet. This isn't about us filling in a form and telling a funder what we want. It's about looking at what a funder wants to fund. What is their interests? What do they want to fund? What is their criteria? What's their eligibility? And do we or can we meet that eligibility? Some of that eligibility is super basics. You need to be a registered charity. I'm a rugby club, we're a cask. We're not a registered charity. We're not going to be eligible. I can do that. Other of it is a bit more nuanced. I don't know. The guidelines are that they want to fund projects that address isolation. I was going to apply for my who was it? Someone after their gym, was it their gym equipment? I can't remember. I was gonna do. I wanted some money for um, my youth project or my juniors. I don't really work with isolation, so I can't really apply for that. But I also do want some money for my walking rugby project. That addresses isolation. So that's going to be maybe that's what I'll do. So there's always that kind of guidelines that you've got to assess. Unfortunately, though, as well as having criteria and guidance, funders also have preferences. And people don't tell you this, but they say what they are interested in funding, but as an experienced bid writer, I'm interested in what a funder actually funds, not what they say they fund, what they actually fund. And one of our roles as bid writers, as when we're looking for places to apply, one of the things I'm really going to encourage people to do is to do more research than you thought you should. So we're not just looking at whoever, not just looking at Sport England and saying, well, this is what they say they fund. This is what their interests are at the moment. I'm going to dig deep. I'm going to go and can I find some grants that they've given? Can I, most funders are doing this now. Can I find details of their recent grants? And all I'm doing is looking for, I was going to say I'm looking for patterns. I suppose I'm looking for patterns. All you guys are doing is looking at it going, are they funding someone like us? Have they funded other rugby clubs? Have they funded other organisations in our region, in our town, in our county? And I'm looking, is that showing us those preferences? Because you'll find funders who say, we happily fund sports organisations. But when you look at their grants, they don't seem to actually do it because it's just not their preference. They're open, and if they had the perfect club with the perfect project, they would fund it. But 9 times out of 10, or more than 9 times out of 10, that isn't the applicant that's the sporting club isn't the perfect one and isn't going to be successful. Whereas other ones, I don't know, you have a look at Wooden Spoon. We all know about Wooden Spoon. You look at Wooden Spoon, look at the money they give to, and I don't know, wouldn't be surprised if 50% of them, probably not, but 50% of them are rugby clubs. And you'd go, yeah, they fund a lot of rugby clubs. This is perfect. My final point is it's a competition. You are competing against other applicants. Our applications need to be of a good standard. We can't get away with real rubbish quality applications. We see applications which just make me laugh. And they really shouldn't, but they do. We see applications where the application form says, give us 500 words. And the word count or whatever, the most you can give is 500 words. And you see people who put 40 words, 50 words in it, and they've submitted it. And I'm not surprised when those applications are rejected. People aren't taking it seriously. It's a job application. If you want to get that job, you're going to have to make some effort and put a good job together. Make it a good, strong application. However, how good does it need to be? Bid writing, whilst it's a competition, and this is hard for us as sports people, whilst it's a competition, doesn't need to be a race to the top. We don't need to write the best application. We don't need to win that race. We just need to be in the pack that qualifies for the next round. Does that work as an analogy? It's not really qualifying for the next round. We want to be in the pack that gets the prize. We don't want to get the gold medal or the silver medal. We just want to get the money. And the application which wins, that's the best application that fund has ever received, is going to get the same amount of money as the application which is in the top 20%. And so there's a point that there's a balance there that we really want to find the middle ground of those of us who are perfectionists and are spending a ridiculous amount of time on applications when we could have just given up hours and hours ago and it's good enough. And those of us who are rushing it together. But it's remembering that for those of us, we don't need to. The quality that you're chasing after isn't super, super high. You're right, you're doing a good job. That's what I want to see in an application, a good job. You don't need to be amazing. This isn't, I don't know, this isn't a PhD. This is an application form for a rugby club to get some money to do a nice project. We're going for a good quality. I just saw something in the chat box. I'm going to come back. Thank you, Jamie. I saw that. I'm going to come back to that. And yes, Sarah does have. Thank you, Alex. Sarah's got a really good idea about sharing information across the team. Let me crack on a bit more. Finding funds. So I've got a question for you guys. Let me know in the chat box. Finding funds, as I say, there's lots of them out there, funders. And the question is, what are the different ways in which you research or find out about funders? So we're starting a little section. Thank you, very good, G. We're starting a section where we want to look at how we find there are, as I say, there are many, many, many funders out there. How do we what are the tools that we can use to pick between those to find out these? So G, thank you, G, has got iDocs website. I'll explain that more in a second. We've got any more? Come on, people. I wonder if iDocs, no, maybe not. Thank you, John, as well. Yeah, and other John, thank you, John, is asking off county funding rep. I'm going to call that a bit of word of mouth. Local press, I like that, Bill. I like that a lot. I'll explain why in a second. Well done, Mark. And Ross, you get the prize. Alex says I have to mention the RFU grant search. So thank you very much. Jason says local wind farms. Again, we'll qualify that in a second. Okay, we're doing that thing where I ask questions and I tell you what the answers are. So thank you. Let's start off. I'm going to start off with the online databases. I'm going to start off with the online databases. So we've had quite a few mentions of those. A couple of people mentioned iDocs. Sarah, I think it was, mentioned Grants Online as well, and then we have the RFU Grant Finder or Grant Search. So you've got to use, and I think RFU Grant Finder is the obvious place to start and probably spend most of your time. But there are a number of places you can go to use an online database, and it's just a really obvious thing that those of you who haven't used them before, it's a grants database with a few thousand funders on them, and you can go on it and say what you are. We are a rugby club. We're based in Cumbria. We're after some money for capital improvements, some building, capital stuff. So it's improvements to maybe to our clubhouse or to our facilities. We're after this size of grant. And you can pull those details in, and it's going to spit out a report on the other side that says these are the 6 places that you are eligible for. It saves you a huge amount of time. If you aren't using them, then you should be. So please do go away and the RFU. There are lots of paid versions, the iDocs, the Grants Online, the Funds Online, Directory of Social Change. You can pay to access them, and they're incredible. They're very detailed. They're very in depth. There's also free versions. Get Grants have got a really basic one. Charity Excellence is a really good free one, and then obviously the RFU one. Use a free one first. Use the RFU one for obvious reasons, and see how you get on. I'm then going to go to existing knowledge. My favorite way of thinking of or encouraging people to think of where they could be applying for grants is to just use what comes into your head. And we do this a lot at Get Grants. We do a lot of training courses, and we just say to people, I know you're a brand new fundraiser. I know that you've never done this before, but can you name me some funders? And people always go, I've got no existing knowledge. I don't know anything. I don't really know any funders. But if I was pushed, I would say, well, I suppose, don't know, Sport England give out some money, don't they? And the lottery do, maybe? Maybe Tesco's, maybe Asda. I think I've heard Asda giving out some money. Maybe I've heard of some of that landfill tax money, because I think I heard another club get some money for that. So I think I've heard of those. And that knowledge is incredible because you'd say to that person, well, how do you know those funders? And they'd say, well, I know them because they're the big ones, aren't they? Because everyone knows the lottery, everyone knows Sport England. They're the big ones. But what I want is the ones that no one else knows. And that's not where you start. You start off with the big ones. For those of us who are in the ones and twos in this group, the big question is have you applied to Sport England Movement Fund? Because if you haven't, that's probably your job for the next 2 weeks. Have you applied for the National Lotteries Awards for All? If you haven't, you don't need to do any research because they're the best places to apply for most organisations, not alone, let alone sports clubs. For most organisations, that's where you want to go to first. But once you've done those, then we do need to research. We do need to research. The best research you get, and again, these are so easy. The best research you do is to look into your history. Some rugby clubs have got plaques on their walls from trusts and foundations and funders who gave them money 4 or 5 years ago that you've never gone back to and asked for more money. Well, there again, that's the places that you go. Those of us who are experienced bid writers, who was it? I think it was, oh, I don't think it was Bill. Someone towards the end gave me a nine. That's what we're doing, is Rob. Hi, Robert. That's what we're doing. I'm just reapplying to the same places. I've just got a database. I'm finding 10 funders who fund me, and every 12 months, I'm just going back to them saying, oh, can you give us some more money? And they're going, yeah, well, yeah, of course, because we really like you. We've funded you for the last 2, 3 years. And I'm building those relationships and I'm asking time and time again. And it's not, I'm still getting rejections within that, of course, but I'm not shooting in the dark. I'm not finding new places to apply. I'm going to those. I'm doing a Sport England. I'm getting the grant. 12 months later, I'm doing my next Sport England application. Do those reapplications. Once I'm doing more research, for me, I'm doing existing knowledge, I'm doing previous funders, and then I'm doing my online databases. I then might do other stuff. Someone had said this, didn't they? Thank you, Sarah. Sarah said Google search. I'm probably swapping out Google searches for AI now. I think probably doing, if I'm thinking about looking on Google trying to find some funders, I'm probably going on ChatGPT and asking them, I'm a rugby club in this location. If you've got any funders who might give us some money for my changing rooms. And it's not bad. It's not bad. It will give you a good list of places. Some won't be eligible. Some won't be good at all. But some will be really good. It does, yeah, it does, Jason. But yeah, I think I'd jump on ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or whoever it is that you're using and have that conversation. Then it's about keeping your eyes open, keeping your ears open, signing up to newsletters, getting yourself on the RFU. If there's a kind of a club newsletter, get yourself on a Get Grants one, a Charity Excellence one, get yourself on the local council distribution, uh, talk to people going on to conferences, going on to events, having your ears open, and talking to people. But I'm also interested, and again, I'm obsessed with this as a bid writing prospector. I'm looking for places to apply. One of the biggest things I do is I'm looking at other clubs. I work in a world much wider than clubs, but I'm working with a specific charity. I'm finding a charity that's very similar to them. And I'm going, well, where have you got money from? Because if you've been successful, maybe I will be. And that's 100% what I'm doing. I would be advising a number of you, especially those clubs who haven't done much in the way of grants before. Who else in your county? Actually, it doesn't even matter. Who else in the country of rugby clubs? Where have they had money from? And you can find that in a range of ways. That was it, wasn't it? I wanted local press. Well, that was Bill, wasn't it? Thank you, Bill. Local press. I love. We don't get any free newspapers anymore where I live. I love a free newspaper that I turn to the back page and there's a chairman of a local rugby club with a big check stood in front of a new mower or something. I'm very happy for that rugby club, but I'm reading that check. Who did they get that money from? Because that's where I want to apply. I'm really interested in success. That's why I'm interested. That you see my point from the very start. I like guidelines. I like eligibility, of course. I'm making sure that I'm eligible and I hit the guidelines all the time. But I want to know that they're funding other clubs. And therefore I can find that by looking at other clubs. And this way you can find loads and loads. Your online databases, your Google searches, your AIs are going to help you build real big lists of places um, to apply to. You don't need big lists, but you need a bit of a list, don't you? But for those of us, I'm going to mention two. I'm going to hand over to Alex in a second just to mention a couple of things happening at RFU. But those of you, I was going to say, those of you who are really new to this, as I say, you're looking at Sport England and awards for all. Some of us who are really experienced, I've got a colleague who is incredibly experienced bid writer. Some of us who are really experienced, we miss the obvious because we're so busy trying to find the clever stuff. We're so busy trying to find something new and interesting that we forget the super, super basic. And they're not basic, but they're super, super obvious. And so all of us let's give a focus, let's give a think to two of the big ones that we should be thinking about. Thank you, Alex. There's a link there in the chat. Sport England's Movement Fund. We saw a press release recently. I'm sure it was a press release. We saw some notice somewhere in the sector that Sport England was saying, I can't remember, I can't the exact wording. They essentially were saying they've got a lot of money available at the moment. The suggestion is from me that the moment before the end of the financial year is a good time to apply for Sport England's Movement Fund. We're seeing people getting a lot of quick successes at the moment. I think there's a good amount of money in the pot. But Sport England do what Sport England do. What are they interested in? They are interested in increasing participation. If you're looking at supporting the movement fund, you could be applying for up to £15,000. Your projects have to increase participation in sport, but they need to be doing that by making inactive people active. If you've got people involved in the club that you want to give better experiences to, Sport England isn't for that. Sport England Movement Fund isn't for that. Sport England Movements Fund is about you getting new people into the club. Or maybe if you've got club members who are siblings or parents or children who aren't active, but it's not for the stuff that you're doing already. It's about building new opportunities for new people. They they do have priority groups, but don't be put off by those. Please don't be too put off by those. They do like an application that focuses on disability, I think on BAME communities, certainly on lower social economic areas, but we see lots of clubs in much more affluent areas having a good amount of success. But they are interested in value for money. If you want to get £10,000, you're going to be needing to work with, I don't know, 100 people. You're not going to get 15 grand to benefit 10 new players joining your club. It doesn't sound like that's good value for money. And it needs to be long-term, sustained participation. Have a look at how Sport England talk about it. Talk about their fund. They talk about inactivity. They talk about sustained participation. That's what your project's going to need to do. The other one I want to mention is National Lottery. National Lottery Awards for All. They are the opposite of, and this is a big point that we're going to make, they are the opposite of Sport England. Sport England exists because they want more people to play sport. There's almost an element that Sport England, they do But in my head, they don't really mind who those people are or why they're playing sport or the impact it's having on them. They just want more people to play sport. And that's how I address my applications. Slightly more nuanced than that. Awards for All are the opposite. They really aren't interested in sport. They don't want that. They're not bothered whether more people play sport or not. They're also a little bit wary of sports projects because they would argue if you're a sports organisation doing a sports project, you should be applying to Sport England. However, they love any project which is going to positively impact people and communities. And we know at our clubs, that's what we do. We know that people joining our clubs benefit in a wide range of ways, but it can't be just for sports reasons. So we have to focus on those wider outcomes. What is their funding priorities are bringing people together, improving spaces, and helping people reach their potential. We see sports clubs get awards for grants for their walking rugby, for their alternative provisions, for some of their community events, for some of their reminiscence projects, for some of the work being done in the clubhouse, for the facilities, the community facilities being used in the clubhouse. Maybe for their holiday clubs, maybe for breakfast clubs. We see rugby clubs doing breakfast clubs. We don't see many get grants, awards falls for their literally the words I was going to say for their mini and juniors. We don't see many get them for their mini and juniors. We don't see possibly any get grants to support through awards for to support their first team or their second team. Maybe a bit of women's and girls if you're writing it well. Um, The great thing, Bill unfortunately had a rejection. Have a look at that, Bill. They normally give a really, it might be that they've just said you're too sporty. Normally, with awards for all, the rejections are quite useful because they'll tell you what they didn't like about it. If they felt it was just a sports project in their eyes, they might have just said, this is too sporty, you should be applied to Sport England. But it might be that the project wasn't the right one. How you doing, Alex? I got couple of slides for you.
Yeah, good. So, hopefully, as people know, and they've seen in the chat, the RFU is also a funder. Historically, we've given money over a huge amount of years, really, in regard to facilities from the Rugby World Cup that went on, and sort of Sarah went when events are going on. Generally, there's grants around that, and that was true with the fantastic Women's World Cup we had recently. We gave out social spaces money, sort of £10,000. People had to match it for £20,000 projects to do at the social spaces. We've done floodlights, pitch drainage, doing so historically, we've given out money for facilities of a lot, and I'll tell you sort of how you sort of get yourself in the running for that. Why is that club getting the money rather than you? Grass pitches, we've been working with the Football Foundation. Actually, it sounds strange, but they're sort of the funder. But actually, we're working with them, and they sort of allocated some money for us, particularly around pitch maintenance fund and pitch maintenance machinery fund. We've been working with them. Now we're just waiting on whether they are what the next stages of that is. But we do hope that we're going to be able to work with the Football Foundation again to offer these sort of grass maintenance packages per pitch. So the previous ones that we had were sort of £14,400 per pitch over a 6-year period, and it sort of goes down. You get more in year one, and it goes down in year two, year three, etc. And as well as sort of £10,000 to £20,000 based on machinery with some partnership funding in there. Now, how did you get access to that? And a lot of our awards, I have to say, but facilities and things, we sort of invite people now, but you have to sort of do the right things to be invited. So for the grass pitches, the best way of doing it is we have grass pitch advisors, and they'll do a report on pitch power, and sort of that gives us, and so you engage with the pitch advisors, get that report, and then obviously when we get any opportunities like the Football Foundation, we know that these pitches are the sort of ones that we want to fund, and you've sort of engaged with us on that. The other thing that hopefully you've seen or maybe got into your clubs is small grants, so linked with programs. Now, those are the ones generally that are very simple application forms. So not running anymore, but we had for 3 seasons a volunteer recruitment campaign where you could get £500, to put forward for your volunteer recruitment campaign. Again, for the Rugby World Cup, again, linked around with these sort of events. You can see it keeps moving. Money was given out to encourage girls rugby in rugby clubs. And sort of, again, a lot of people were targeted for that rather than actually applied for it. But those sort of things come up with programs, small sort of stuff. And then we have constituent bodies. Our constituent bodies, and what is a constituent body? That is like Yorkshire Rugby Football Union, Staffordshire Rugby Football Union, Kent, so sort of like your county association. Now they're all different with 28 of them across the country, but they've got some funds. They've got funds that we give them with the RFU, and then they sort of support clubs in a variety of different ways. They're all in different financial situations, but it changes. But it's definitely worth checking in with your constituent bodies. Some things coming up. One of the big areas that we are looking at is floodlights. So by the end of this season, and for the next few years at least, we'll be launching kind of like a floodlight program to get new floodlights, to improve floodlights in our rugby clubs. And so by the end of this season, people will be invited for that. The other thing that we've got that we're working on by the end of this season as well is a loan scheme that clubs could come to for facility builds. And maybe wider than that. So by the end of this season, floodlighting and that loan scheme will be launched. So further details will follow. But you can see there, funds come and go. It keeps changing. And stuff. And so how do you get involved with that floodlighting scheme? So John passed me on brilliantly how you get involved with basically we have a facility planning process where all clubs provide their details about what is your priority facility needs. So that sort of questionnaire comes out there, and you need to make sure that you've submitted that. And that is what our facilities team work with those constituent bodies, like Kent Rugby Football Union, North Midlands Union, and sort of identify which clubs are ready for us to invite to do those things. And the floodlights will definitely be on that process. So it will sort of say, these clubs really need it. They've got a real chance to grow rugby and retain players that they've already got there. What is their readiness factors? Do they have any money? Because generally, we give part funding for a lot of these things. Where are you in regard to that? How good is your governance in place to actually make this project work? So the key thing is facility needs, put your details in there. And if John just flicks us on to the next slide, this basically is from July 2024. So sort of last season's what clubs have told us, but you can see at the top right hand corner, 12% of clubs are telling us nothing. Now, if you're telling us nothing, then obviously you're not on our radar at all. And so when these opportunities come up, our facilities team are also working with the local authorities, are also working with other funders to try and sort of point people in the right direction of where they could get these. So you can see those on-pitch stuff, that pitch maintenance stuff. So when that opportunities, the Football Foundation comes up, like I said, the key way of getting that sort of stuff is those pitch advisor reports. Floodlights, you can see a lot of needs around that. And then off-pitch. So obviously the green energy solution, there might be some things that we keep looking at from theirs. But the key thing I just put to you is ask the question at your club, have you completed your facility needs capture for the constituent bodies? And if you haven't, make sure it is. Engage with them. And also it's worth engaging if you are trying to improve your facilities, engaging with our facilities team, and I'll provide their details, sort of a link after this. But I'll hand back to John for the rest of the webinar.
Cool, thank you, Alex. There's just a couple of questions in the chat box, which I'm going to leave you to type some answers to. I think is probably the best way to go, just so we can cram in enough time of this. But it brings me quite nicely onto the next section, where they're really just making some quick points here, just about so we can look and find places to apply. But how do we then start to pick between them? So how do we know which are the ones that it's worth making our efforts, which are the right ones to apply to? And it just made me think, as Alex was talking then, a question that Jamie asked towards the start in the chat box, where he said, like, is it useful to speak to funders? Is it worth picking up the phone and having a chat with funders? And essentially, that's exactly what Alex is saying. What does Alex call them? Your constituent bodies. I think I would used to call them the county RFU, county boards, but they're probably much bigger than counties now, aren't they? But it's having those conversations with your constituents bodies or with potential funders, just getting yourself known, getting yourself sound out. Not sure what that phrase means, but getting yourself heard of by the time they receive your application. So that, yeah, I used to do this when I did job applications. I think of a reason to speak to the person who would be the line manager, who might be the person interviewing me, who would be the person assessing my application, so that when my application falls on their desk, they go, "Oh yeah, John Eloy. I remember him. He called up and was asking about car parks or strategy or something." Well, you can do that with your funders as well. Maybe not with Sport England or the National Lottery because they're big beasts, but with your local, what used to be Section 106 money, or your SIL money, or your SIF money, your levies, or with your landfill tax, or with your local trusts and foundations, your local community foundation, have a conversation with them and make that little bit of a relationship. So that not only, and this is what Alex is saying with the RFU, not only that when they receive your application, they recognize you and they know that you're a good organization, they know that you're credible, but also that they occasionally will be tipping you off. They will be getting in contact saying, "Have you seen this funds open? This might be a good opportunity for you." Build those relationships. And you'll work out really quickly who the ones are that you can, because they're willing to have a conversation with you. Sport England might have a conversation with you, but it's going to be a different person on the end of the phone every time you call them. And that's not relationship building, is it? So how do we start to pick between them? Well, we do Jamie's thing and Alex's thing of we might have a bit of a conversation. But we're going to do our research. We're going to look into these funders. How do we know the ones that are worth trying to? Well, we're going for the big names, aren't we? We're going for these big ones that other people seem to be getting. Everyone seems to be talking about Sport England. So that's where we've got to go. We're going to do our reapplications. We know that who it is, you've got a local trust that gives some money to sports clubs, and they've given us money for the last 3 years. Well, we know that they're the right place to apply. Every other funder we apply for, I'm gonna have to do some research to work out whether it's worth my effort. So the one of your someone in the clubhouse has told you, "Oh, you guys, you really need to apply for this place." I'm going to research it. I'll put it in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT it says, "Well, you really should be applying to Clothworkers Foundation for your floodlights." Okay, yeah, but I know ChatGPT lies at times, so I'm going to have a look at it. Any information you get coming in, even the stuff you get from the RFU Grant Search or the Grant Finder, okay, it's identified this funder. Okay, but I'm going to do my own research. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to look. And this is the stuff I'm doing. I'm checking for their recent grants because I'm making sure that they have funded other rugby clubs, other organisations in my area, in my region. I'm looking for the case studies. It might be that Wooden Spoon have funded a load of rugby clubs, but when you look at the case studies, are they nearly all disability sport? Or are they nearly all disability sport? Maybe some walking stuff? Or are they funding all juniors, clubs, and minis and juniors? And that gives you that idea. Well, that's annoying because I really want money for minis and juniors, but this funder only seems to give money to whatever it is, women's and girls. Get to know that funder, understand it, do the thing of saying, well, actually, I wanted money for mini and juniors, but if they want to give us some money and we could have some money for women's and girls, that would work for us. Or you stick to your guns and go, no, we need money for minis and juniors. We're not applying for that because it's not going to work. Take your time. So we're just going to make I'm going to skip past that one. So I've got a question, but I think I'm just going to talk through it. So the question would be, we're going to talk through the different sections of application form, and we just want you to think, well, as I'm talking, do have a think about how easy or difficult you find each of those sections. If you fast on your finger, give us a score out of 10 for each of the sections. If you've got a thought, give us a thought in the chat box about each of those sections. But just to make sure we cover enough, and we're just going to probably just going to talk through each of those sections because and the point I'm one of the points I want to make here is that this is what application forms look like. I think it was Ellie at the start said, well, the annoying thing is that applications are really long. And they are. Some of them are really short, but they are mainly pretty long, and they all look and feel a bit different. They all seem to be asking different questions. And whilst they seem to, they also all, in my head, they're all asking the same questions. If you show me an application form, I can probably show you these 7 sections. It'll be worded different, it'll be asked different. Maybe the needs section in one application form is six questions long. Maybe the needs section in another application form is 50 words. But it's going to have any bit of that need element. And these are the bits that we're going to need to be able to do time and time again. And so give us a thought in the chat box. So I'm going to talk about organization background. Give us a number if you how easy or difficult you think organization background is. It's not that difficult. This is one whoever it was earlier on asking whether we can reuse good text. Absolutely. Organization background. Tell us about who you are as a club. This is one I can take my time and do a good answer the once. But once I've done my organization background question well, I'm going to use that again and again and again. It shouldn't be a section. I think I've poorly explained the task, but don't worry about it. Organization background shouldn't be a difficult section. It isn't a section that should be too hard. You're just going to talk about the background of the club, how many members you've got, how long you've been around, the impact that you have. Make sure we're going to use it time and time again, but make sure we're tweaking it for that funder. Okay, I'm applying to awards fraud, I'm applying to the lottery. They're not interested in all the trophies that we've won and all the work of how many teams we've got. They're interested in how the clubhouse has been used by other people. They're interested in the walking rugby program, or they're interested in how the stuff that we've done with the local food bank. So make sure you're tailoring it to that audience, but get some good text and use that time and time again. Your project titles don't mean anything. They really don't. Don't be that person who gets hung up on trying to call something clever. We don't mind. Funders don't care. You're not going to get a grant. You're not going to be successful because you thought of a clever title. You're also not going to be rejected because you had a bad title. We find fundraisers spend hours trying to think of a clever 3 or 5 word project title. Just don't get hung up on it. Your overview project. Give us a thought in the chat box if you can give us a number. How easy or difficult is this? Give us a summary of your project. Give us an overview. This is a hard section. It's also a really important section. This is, we talk a lot as experienced fundraisers, we talk a lot about storytelling. Grant applications are answering questions, filling in forms. And we've got to make sure that every question we are asked, we provide an answer to. And that question might be marked. You might get a score for it. You might get a grade for it. But actually, across the application, you've got to tell a bit of a story. We talk a lot about humans give to humans. And our overview needs to paint a picture. You want to be able to read an overview of a project and go, this sounds like a nice rugby club that's doing some great work, that's supported by a load of passionate volunteers that needs this project to have an impact. And so it comes with it quite a bit of pressure, this section. Andrew says really nice in the chat box, if you can't do it, give a good overview, you're probably not ready to apply. We see a lot of ones that they've just suddenly gone, oh, there's a women's and girls money here, let's apply for that. And the details of the project aren't really there, and you can't paint that picture because there isn't really a picture behind it. But yeah, you want to have that kind of engaging. This is where some nice writing, some a bit of passion, a bit of energy. If you want to do something, you're excited about it, tell us that in an application form. Don't make your application form super dry. Need, let us know in the chat box if you find this, how easy or difficult you find this. Need is hard. Need is tricky. Those of us who experience bid writers might say it's actually quite straightforward, but for those of us who are new, need is annoyingly difficult. It's difficult. The point of your need section is that you need to evidence that a project is needed. So you can't just say we want to do some rugby. We want to do some walking rugby sessions because we know that local elderly people are isolated. You've got to evidence and prove that those people are isolated. And that might mean you've got to go and find some statistics. It might mean you've got to go and find some sentences from a report somewhere online. It might mean you might have to get a quote from a local partner or get a little bit of a survey from some of your members who talk about the isolation of their relatives. But you're going to have to do a little bit of legwork with this. However, shout out Sarah with her shared drive. I would reuse these. I'm reusing my statistics. If I've identified that Sport England Active Lives tells us that sports participation is low in our town or county, I'm using that in an application form and then I'm saving it in my shared drive and I'm using it again and again. Delivery plans, similar to your overview, you've got to have that detail. Thank you, Andrew. That's the point I want to make here. You've got to have your details. If you're going to launch two new mini and juniors teams, you've got to have worked out exactly how you're going to do it before you fill the form in. Where are you going to promote it? Where are you going to get your volunteers from? What facilities? What space have you got? Where you're getting your equipment from, all that's got to be there. Because if it's not, it looks like you're making it up. It looks like you're not sure whether you can or want to do it. Your outcomes, super, super important. You've got to be able to do your outcomes well. And this is the bit where it's understanding the impact you're going to have, but it's understanding the impact that that funder is interested in. So it's not just, well, we know this is going to benefit them in a range of ways, so we'll just pick a couple of ways. I don't know. Again, I'm going with walking rugby. These people, the elderly people, are going to make friends. They're going to get out of the house. They're going to improve their physical health. But actually, which of those is the funder interested in? That funder's actually interested in, I don't know, friendships, in healthy eating, in isolation. So those are the bits that I have to make sure I'm talking about. Budgets, same as delivery plan. No getting away from it. Get the detail, have it researched, make it make sense. We are hitting 8 o'clock. So I'm gonna make a few top tips, but I'm happy to hang on for a few more minutes, Alex, and see if we've got any questions. What my things to go away with? I don't like that one. I'm ignoring the first one because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Think linking those outcomes with the funder's outcomes. It says here, reuse useful text. We've said this a number of times already, whether that's your statistics that you found for your need arguments, use them again and again. Your organizational background, good wording you've put together, use it again. We use the phrase copy, paste, amend, and review. So I'm using text again, but I'm twisting it, turning it, amending it every single time. We've got to make sure we get our applications in. The point at the start, 20% maybe are successful. Let's not hang about with an application on our desk ready to submit. Let's get it in, move on to the next one. That one might be that one might be rejected, but spending another hour or two in it probably isn't going to be the thing that makes a difference. You're probably going to spend another 2 hours on it and it would be rejected anyway because it just wasn't the right thing for the right place. I'd rather get it done and get into the next one. And the big thing we think about as clubs is, are they a sports funder? Is this, and there are two extremes. Are they a Sport England or are they an awards for all? And funders are in a spectrum between that. You have a lot of funders who say, we don't really fund sport, but we like the outcomes that sport bring about. But we do have other funders who say, well, yeah, I'm interested in the growth of this club, in it doing more of its core work. And it's having those ready projects, those ready outcomes that you can talk about to each of those, but not getting caught up and talking to you about your sports outcomes to the community funders and talking about all the great community stuff that's happening, the food banks and the food delivery stuff, or whatever else that you're doing, the warm hubs that you're running to your in your facilities, to I don't know, Peter Harrison Foundation, who just want more disadvantaged people to play sport. Hopefully, that's a real whistle stop tour today. The point we want to make is there is funds out there. There is absolutely opportunities for you to be successful. And the encouragement is to go away from today and have a go. The more you write, the more you submit, not only the more successes that obviously you have, but the more impetus you have as a club to go, yeah, we should do this. We need to do this more. How are we doing, Alex?
We're doing good. Thank you very much for this evening, John. Just got one from Wayne checking in. Are you able to share the slides? Interested in the grant listing potential? Yes, we can share this. We'll share a lot of the links that we've shared this evening, and we'll share a copy of the recording that will be on the RFU Club Support YouTube channel there as well. If anyone's got any final questions, John said he's happy to stay on for a bit. So if you want to throw them in now, we did have that one earlier. I think you picked it up, John, about the picking up the phone to a funder. What was your big things on that?
Yeah. I also just realized, yeah, so it's remembering that those relationship things make a difference. Those relationships do make a difference. There's a lot of competition in grant funding at the moment. And funders have that opportunity to be picky because lots of people are applying. And one of the ways to jump that is by having that relationship. If a funder's being picky, they want to pick the people that they trust. And they'll trust the people that they know, that they've talked to, that they've had conversations with. So it really, really can make a difference. Of course, there's some funders who don't, who won't talk to you. So let's not try and chase them down and knock on the offices if they don't want to speak to people. I just wanted to make sure because I had a note that I wanted to mention AI and I haven't quite mentioned it enough. I've mentioned it a bit as a prospecting tool. It is useful to support your writing. It absolutely is useful. However, please don't be an AI bid writer. Don't rely on it to put your applications together. It isn't a tool that you can say, here is the question, give us the answer. It creates generic content. It makes stuff up a little bit. It has inaccuracies. And funders are starting to say, we're comfortable with people using AI, but when they are solely using it, we can see and we don't. And it doesn't quite make sense. It needs to have that kind of human element.
Yeah, and from what I've seen is you've started to see some statements around that. If they kind of like see very identical
Yeah.
applications, obviously they go, I've read this before, and obviously it just shows that sort of feel there. They might go, oh, that was good, and then all of a sudden they get three like it, and so of course then you just take it out because of that, and you're starting to see a few statements on the things around the use of AI. Some
Yeah.
more questions in here. Do you recommend a single person searching for grants or a team?
A team. Too many of us as organisations are reliant on one person. We're reliant on one person who often then gets quite good at it, but then at some point they move away. They leave the club, and you're lost without them. It's also for those people who don't really want to be doing it. It's a huge amount of pressure. With anything, yeah, it's a team approach. That's why our clubs normally have a manager and an assistant and a load of supporting coaches who help them. Yeah, a real team approach, but find your skills. Find the stuff that you're good at. I get the sports ones. I'll concentrate on those. I'm good at the budgets. I'm good at chasing the quotes. I'll do that, but can you do this bit?
Great. We've got Jason. Any magic ones? Obviously, we know the answer to that one. But firms who will search and bid on behalf, there's a few out there. Obviously, yourselves, you have a bit of a different approach to some of them out there. Do you want to just explain what's sort of things are on the market for people?
Yeah, I think the fun we've moved on in the last 20 years, so that me and Alex have been talking about this, and consultants were really external support was really seen as a complete negative thing, and we see more and more organisations who are using consultants or freelancers. Um, the negatives is that they're going to cost you money. They're going to cost you. They're going to cost you money. We have expensive day rates. Um, yeah, it- and then you have to somehow fundraise to get that money. You can't pay consultants or freelancers with grant money, so there's a fundraising challenge. If you do explore it as a thing, get some references, check them out. There are a lot of poor quality bid writers who charge a lot of work to write bad applications, which are then rejected. You can waste a huge amount of time working with organize our companies as well as individuals at times and not being successful. Funders, I get that the forms are long, I get that it's complicated, but the system is set up in a way that people should be able to do it themselves. That's what funders really want. And so I really would, the starting point very much is have you got the skills within the clubs? Can we find the time to do this ourselves? And take it from there.
Thank you, John. I think that completes our questions for this evening. Thank you very much for leading it. Lots of nice comments in there, people finding it useful. As I said, we will follow up with the information afterwards. Hopefully, you'll be able to take this forward and get some grants coming into your clubs. So, thank you very much for joining, and I look forward to seeing you all on a webinar in the future.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having us.